Have you ever seen these GoPro videos online where the quality just looks so insane and you wonder to yourself, how does such a little cam get such high quality videos? So you save up for a few months and you end up buying one of these GoPros, only to realize that your footage doesn't look anything like it did on the videos. Then this video is for you. If you're new to this channel, my name's Sean and I'm actually still not sure what I do. I've been shooting on GoPro for almost about 3 years now, so I think it's safe to say that I have some useful tips and that I rarely put these things to the test. I'm going to be demonstrating these tips on the Hero 8 as well as the Hero 7. I've broken this tutorial down into 3 sections that I think people or users battle with the most. Once your GoPro is turned on, make sure that it is in video mode, then head over to your video settings and make sure your Pro Tune is turned on. Now, as you will see, a whole bunch of different settings will pop up below. EV, which stands for exposure value. This should always be on -0.5 if you're shooting in daylight. The reason for doing that is because a lot of time in GoPro footage you overexpose the sky and this avoids that from happening. Another very positive point of putting on -0.5 is that the GoPro ends up shooting in a higher frame rate in order to darken the image a little bit. And when you're shooting in a higher frame rate, slow-mo footage ends up coming out a lot smoother. What it also does is make sure that the ISO is being shot on the lowest possible in order to drop that exposure by -0.5. And a lower ISO just means better quality and a sharper image. Make sure your white balance is on auto. The next thing to change is your ISO minimum. Always leave that on 100. ISO max I always put on 400 when shooting in daylight. The reason for being 400 and not any lower is because sometimes you go underneath a tunnel or you're filming a vlog scene and you go inside a house or underneath the shade. This still allows it to go a little bit brighter if needed. The only time I ever put the ISO max any higher is when I'm shooting at nighttime. I'll put it up to about 800, if necessary 1600, but I'll never ever go above 1600 as the grain just becomes too much. But with it being on -0.5, it will always shoot on ISO 100 if necessary. The next thing to change is the sharpness. Now this should always be on low. It allows you to adjust the sharpness in post and match it with your other clips from DSLRs or drone footage. The reason why I think GoPro automatically puts it on high for you is because a lot of users put their clips straight from their GoPro onto their phone, and on a smaller device, having your clips a lot sharper makes the quality look a lot better. But once you blow it up on the screen or anything bigger than a phone, you can actually see the sharpness is way too high and the quality ends up looking lower. Now this is probably the most important part of your Pro Tune settings, and that is shooting your color in flat. Now what this does is it desaturates your clips and basically neutralizes all the information and the colors, the shadows, highlights. This is very beneficial for creators that are shooting on DSLR, drones and GoPros and putting it all into one video, as having a flat image allows you to adjust certain colors and things to match it to your previous clips so that everything looks like it's shot on one camera. So now that you have your Pro Tune settings all done, let's move on to the next section. Okay, so the best resolution for vlogging I find is 4K at 30 frames because you never need slow motion when talking, and the reason for being in 4K is because obviously you got the highest quality possible and it allows you to crop in if you want to get rid of that fisheye effect a little bit. So there's 2 preferred resolutions when it comes to shooting slow-mo on your GoPro. Number 1 being at 2.7K 120 frames, and then if you want to go super slow, you normally go down to 1080 at 240. To get the ultimate cinematic look on your GoPro, put your resolution on 2.7K at 60 frames on linear. Now this allows you to keep it at a really high resolution as well as have the 60 frames ability to slow it down. Now for POV, for those that don't understand what POV is, it stands for point of view. Point of view is basically either in your mouth shot. It's basically putting your GoPro into your mouth and shooting like this. It's like a first person perspective, or mounting on your helmet. Basically just mounting your GoPro anywhere where you can't see the LCD screen. This is the ultimate resolution, and probably the only resolution you should use. Now that ultimate setting is putting your GoPro on 4:3. What 4:3 essentially does is it just makes the frame a lot higher and lower and uses a lot more of your sensors. So that allows you to be able to crop up and down if needed. And a lot of times when you have your GoPro mounted, you can't see the LCD screen, so you're not always sure if your shot is framed correctly. Now that your GoPro is on 4:3, make sure to put it on its highest resolution possible. And that resolution will either be on 1440 or 2.7K at 4:3, and then put it at its highest frame rate possible. Here's some examples of my favorite mounted or POV shots I've gotten in these exact settings. Tip number 1 when framing your GoPro shot is try to avoid your subject, your object or person. Try to avoid having them on the edges of the frame, as the GoPro has a very bubbly effect and curved horizon when shooting on wide. So when you have the subject on the edges, a lot of the time it looks really distorted. So just aim it a little bit to the middle, but remember to always keep it in your rule of thirds. Tip number 2, when mounting your camera or even doing vlogging, always remember to aim your camera a little bit down. A lot of the time you just think you should aim your lens right at your face, but what that ends up doing is it leaves a lot of headroom above your head. And the only time you should have headroom is if there's a reason for it being like something flying over, or you're trying to reveal something above you. But other than that, aim your GoPro a little bit more down just to fill up the frame a little bit more. Tip number 3 being connect your GoPro with your phone on the mobile app. A lot of time in the daytime, or if your GoPro is mounted somewhere, you can't exactly see the screen properly, and then you have a bigger screen to frame the shot, as well as you can see a live view of whatever's happening. Tip number 4 is always try and keep your GoPro level. When you tilt your camera a little bit to the left or right, it makes it very obvious that the horizon is skewed, and the skew horizon can really separate pro footage from amateur hour footage, unless it's obviously shot skew with a purpose. I hope you gained at least one good tip from this video, and I also really hope it's opened some new creative ideas for you and given you some more inspiration to go out and shoot with your GoPro, as I think a lot of creators underestimate the power of these GoPros. Now if you've applied any of these tips to your videos, please feel free to send me a DM on Tornfisser on Instagram, and I would love to see what you guys have been doing with your GoPros. So if you guys have any other questions on your GoPro, please leave them down below in the comments and I'll happily get back to you. If you're new to my channel and this is the first video of mine you've watched, please subscribe and I'll see you next week. Bro.